We thought you would feel comfortable. Ellie, give us a hug. You have mommy's hands.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass.
Welcome back to Shat The Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we loved when we were growing up really that good? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you know what Blockbuster Video is? If you answered yes, then this is the podcast for you. I am one of your hosts, Gene Lyons, and alongside me is my co-host, Big D, Dick Ebert.
Okay to go.
Each week, we take a look back in time and decide if our favorite films still hold up. The movies we cover are chosen by you, the listeners, who generously commission the films you love. If you like to see all the movies we have covered, will cover, and want to choose one for yourself, please visit shatpod.com and have a look. At the end of each podcast, we'll provide you, the audience, the number of wipes each movie takes to get off your respective butts. So thank you so much for listening. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and share with a friend. It's how we help the podcast grow. Additionally, subscribe to our sister podcast, Shat on TV. We review TV series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, True Detective, Lovecraft Country, and Watchmen. Find all information and past episodes at shatpod.com/TV. And finally, if you'd like to hang out with us live, follow and subscribe to our Twitch channel, shatpod.com/Twitch, and our YouTube channel, where we play video games, host watch parties, and edit this podcast live. All that being said, Big D, what movie are you reviewing today?
Gene, in a podcast that focuses, yes, on movies, but it's more about our shared experiences. How did they hold up? How did they make us feel? We spend a lot of our lives believing in things that we can't prove in our general lives. It's love, purpose, God. And tonight's film, it asks whether science is really any different. And the commission from Steve is here. It's not about aliens in the sky, which you might think if you'd seen the trailer or the poster, but it's about faith here on Earth. And when humanity finally hears the answer of whether or not that we have extraterrestrials in space, the question becomes, what are we ready to believe in? How would we respond? And I think these are the best movies. And this one was divisive when it came out. So when the commission came in from Steve, I was very excited to go back and watch the classic science fiction drama from 1997, Contact. And Steve was kind enough to call in and leave a voicemail telling us why this movie was his selection to go back and revisit.
G'day Shat Pod, it's Steve here from Melbourne, Australia. Thanks so much for reviewing a movie that's really dear to my heart, Contact. This movie to me, it's like a hug after a shitty day or a cozy cabin with a fire while it's snowing outside. It's a story so bold and exciting it fills me with hope whenever I'm feeling down. It's based off the novel by Carl Sagan, one of the leading astronomers of the 20th century, and directed by one of the best, Robert Zemeckis, of Back to the Future and Forrest Gump. It's a story about science versus religion and how they coexist in a skeptical world. It's a story about love that transcends space and time. There's so much great and small, and it all fits so perfectly. Jodie Foster as lead is the brilliant headstrong astronomer who discovers an alien signal. And by the way, did you see that first episode of Pluribus and how they totally stole the signal discovery scene? Check it out. Matthew McConaughey is perfect as a laid-back love interest, a devout but ex-priest, like the yin to Foster's yang. You've got William Fichtner in one of my favourite roles of his as a blind astronomer. Max Martini is probably the only role he's ever been in where he wasn't a Delta Force or Navy SEAL guy. There's so many great performances from top actors, but it's not just them, it's the amazing story by Sagan and the direction by Zemeckis that bring it all together. Nearly 30 years later, they're still teaching the innovative filming techniques that were used in this movie, like the cabinet mirror scene at the start of the movie. I really love talking about this movie and how it evokes these thoughts of, are we alone in the universe? And what would life look like if or when we ever make contact with intelligent life? I really hope we're around to see that happen, but until then I just watch Contact, for what's the closest I think we'll come to what might only ever be a fantasy. Anyway, I've seen this movie probably 20 times, and no doubt I'll watch it another 20 more. I hope you guys enjoy reviewing this one, and I hope everyone listening enjoys it too. And Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and please enjoy Contact.
Gene, this is one of those movies that made me feel smarter, or at least I tried to take pieces. Occam's razor, I had never heard of before this film. I was a fucking idiot, right? And then also the line, because I'm a big believer in alien life. It makes complete sense mathematically. And that Jodie Foster, that whole conversation about the millions of galaxies and millions of planets and even only one. And then we get Matthew McConaughey's, it'd be a waste of a lot of space or something like that. Those two things always stuck with me. And I tried to sneak them in any arguments with believers of extraterrestrials and non-believers.
Were you a student of the Fermi paradox prior to Contact?
No.
Oh, look, we learned so much.
I think how much have we wormholes?
Yeah.
Event horizon, the grandfather paradox. Movies are the backbone of all of, at least my scientific knowledge.
Bootstrapping consciousness.
Yes. We have all cognitive dissonance. So much stuff. Science fiction.
Whatever the fuck happened in Ice Pirates. That thing.
What I think the speeding up of time.
Yeah, growing old in an action sequence.
Gene, that's from Interstellar. Time dilation, I believe that is, on the edge of the wormhole. And
that's right.
So it's I think without science fiction, we'd be dumber than we actually are right now, which is pretty amazing.
I was very excited to kick off 2026 with Contact, and so glad that we could do it for Steve. Steve is a great friend of the pod. He's one of the 5 Steves, I think, in our Discord and very active in there. By the way, guys, if you haven't joined our Discord, 2026 would be a great time to do a lot of podcasts. They charge you for that. Not here at Shat The Movies. We're just lonely. Want to talk to you and share GIFs. But big deal. All I remembered about Contact, it wasn't the Fermi paradox. It wasn't Occam's razor. It was Jodie Foster's dad dies, spoiler alert.
Fuck.
And then she flies to see aliens, but only gets to see her dad. This is, as you mentioned, a movie that is widely debated as either a masterpiece or a massive letdown, particularly the ending. So I was eager to kick off the new year with a hot topic.
And Gene, we're not on our Discord lonely. We're just searching for that human connection. That's all it is, Gene. That's all we're trying to do. We're trying to find ourselves in this wild world of technology that just isolates us, Gene. So basically what I'm saying is our Discord could help you, dear listener, find a purpose in your life and stop from just floating around free in the black abyss of space. Come join us. Come. Step by step, baby steps.
And the King Bee's gone. So basically the biggest troll you're going to find is Shatman, and he's not too bad. He's really cuddly when it comes down to it. Well, Contact is a 1997 science fiction drama based on the 1985 novel by Carl Sagan. It stars Jodie Foster as Dr. Ellie Arroway, a scientist who finds evidence of extraterrestrial life and is chosen to make first contact. Matthew McConaughey, James Woods, Tom Skerritt, William Fichtner, John Hurt, Angela Bassett, and David Morse co-star. Sagan and his wife began working on Contact in 1979. They wrote a film treatment that stalled, so Sagan published Contact as a novel in 1985. After other teams failed, Robert Zemeckis picked up Contact as director and co-producer, while Sony Pictures Imageworks and Industrial Light and Magic handled the visual and special effects. Sadly, Carl Sagan died before the film was completed. Contact was released on July 11th, 1997, and received positive reviews, winning the Hugo Award for Best Dramatic Presentation and 2 Saturn Awards. It grossed a whopping $170 million worldwide. Let's hit the trailer.
From Carl Sagan, the Pulitzer Prize-winning author, and Robert Zemeckis, the Academy Award-winning director of Forrest Gump.
I am okay to go.
Jodie Foster.
If you come back.
Matthew McConaughey.
Everybody that you care about, be gone.
Okay to go.
A journey into the heart of the universe.
We are not removed.
Contact. Rated PG. Sneak preview July 5th.
Dr. Ellie Arroway, who works at the Arecibo Observatory, was inspired by her late father to pursue a career in science. Her work involves listening to radio emissions from space in the hopes of finding signs of intelligent extraterrestrial life. The SETI program loses funding after Dr. David Drumlin, the president's science advisor, deems it futile, but Arroway receives financial support from S.R. Haddon, the secretive billionaire industrialist who runs Haddon Industries, which enables her to keep working at the Very Large Array in New Mexico.
So, Gene, I was happy to hear that both you and Steve mentioned not the big science fiction or the special effects or the aliens. Both of you remembered first the relationship, because that's the core of the movie. It's almost as if they introduce science as they kind of sneak it in there, but it starts you off with this emotional connection and grounding of the movie. In the early scenes, we get young Ellie and her father, played by David Morse, plays Ted. And it carries a lot of the emotional weight and it drives the plot. It's very similar to Interstellar. It's the backbone of the film and it works. I mean, just watching him introduce this child to science, her curiosity and the idea that the universe would be something worth listening to. Knowing where the story goes, because we've seen it. I'm watching this and I'm feeling fragile. I'm like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Does it happen now? Does it happen later? And it's building because I know where it goes and I know the sadness and the loss. And now, as a father, I find myself thinking Ellie was 9 when he died, and I feel my own mortality and what will happen the day that I leave. You're a new parent of a daughter. And I was thinking, how is Gene going to respond to this now as a new father who had lost his father very young? And this has got to be something that's emotionally tough for you to watch and probably hit you hard.
I wish I could say it did, Big D. Contact, I agree with you. It does a fantastic job of emotionally connecting us to Ellie and her father in just a few minutes of flashbacks. It is very efficient, but maybe it's the buildup since then. My 2025 eye was watching the legendary mirror scene to see, does it hold up? I mean, you see it all the time. It's posted on social media. People talk about it. Steve mentioned that these techniques are taught now in film schools. For those who haven't seen the movie in a while, Ellie is calling to her father during the Leonid meteor shower. She's out on the deck with the telescopes and she hears him collapse inside the house. So she runs inside and she finds him on the floor, and then she rushes in slow motion to get his medicine from the upstairs cabinet. Now, the way they shot this is they had a guy running backward with a camera attached to him so that we could see her moving in slow motion toward the medicine cabinet. And then we realized the whole thing we just watched was her reflection, because her arm comes into the scene and we realize we're watching through a reflection. I remember people raving about this trick back in the day, but I watched it now and I didn't feel like it added much to the film. Did I miss something? Like, did it do something for you?
No, just I think knowing it was coming and being fans of film and being nerds of how shots are created, I was more impressed with the visual bookend of it. They did later on, instead of the camera following as she's running, they did the opposite when she makes the discovery and gets out of the car. And then we follow the one shot up into the telescope and into the room. Also, I remember Forrest Gump and seeing this, where they introduce historic figures into the film where they weren't. We were thinking, wow, Forrest Gump meeting JFK. That's pretty amazing. Yeah, we were simpler connoisseurs of film back then. But it's the story that drives it.
The part that got me was the film's opening pullback shot. I was very impressed with that. We start from Earth and we hear 1997 radio transmissions of like the Spice Girls. And then we move farther and farther out into space and the broadcasts are getting older and older. And you start to realize that it's illustrating how far the broadcasts are reaching and that it takes time to get places. And then we move beyond that bubble into silent space, like outside our own galaxy where our radio transmissions haven't even reached yet, like none of them ever. And it gives you this idea of just how big space is and how insignificant we are. But they pair that with that relationship between Ted and Ellie, and suddenly it starts to crystallize inside of you. And you get this sense that it doesn't matter how big space is. It doesn't mean that it's all pointless. What matters is the people you love. And I was holding my baby at the time, and I literally told her out loud, the universe is a very big place and you're the most important thing in it. And the fact that the movie got me to vocalize something to my own child while watching it, that's when it hit.
You see, and I got to realize you're still new to this, right? Your baby, you haven't connected yet. You haven't had once she starts to talk to you, once you start to learn, once you start to feed her curiosity, that's when she's going to get you, Gene. That's when you're going to start to one day say, I get what you said about Father of the Bride. I can feel it. I know that day is coming, but you undersell the opening. There's no credits. They don't ease you into it. They slam you with that audio, that deafening audio. So anybody in the theater must have been, because I don't remember my reaction to it, must have been, you had to sit up and pay attention. And it is a brilliant scene that grounds you into the film and the characters.
Now, Sarah, on the other hand, was a few feet away from me, and she was like, this is taking forever. Like, what's the movie? So mixed reviews on that opening. I don't think everybody was into it.
Wow. Okay. All right. But Steve mentions Pluribus, and Pluribus does copy this entire intro, and it's very different in the way that humanity receives the message from outer space. There's a lot of parallels to it, but they both show something that I like. I like the way these movies and shows romanticize scientists. I wouldn't be able to do it. I would never give up a teaching gig at Harvard for a field that is mocked within the field, that I'm basically committing suicide. I don't know that I would have the courage to sit there for years listening frequency after frequency and not be taken seriously when I know what I'm capable of. And they're listening things that most people would never have the attention span to do. And they're showing, yet Drumlin coming in, and he's a threat, even though he's an academic, but he's more focused on the financial side. And he's just shitting on her, telling her career is going to die. And Contact frames these intellectuals as a bit odd, but they should be respected for the curiosity. Where we get the military and the government and all of the people in power are the big bad establishment, but they're the ones who are true, pure, lovers of science, and they're the explorers. I respect them. I could never do that. You're more idealistic than I am. You actually protest. You actually go out and champion causes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm a bad person for that. I don't feel enough to actually motivate myself to get up, and I could never do something like this and go sit in a field that might elevate or help humanity 100 years down the road.
I mean, you signed up to fight Haji.
Yeah, but that's not so much quiet time. And, it's more helping in the moment. And it's also, I'm not going to lie, I'm not patriotic. I did it for college. I had to pay my college off. If I was just sitting out there, if they were just like, hey, we're not going to pay your college, I don't know I would have been there.
There wasn't a little part of you that was like, we got to protect the homeland against the terrorists.
I told you, I became like Pavlov's dogs. Every time I hear Proud to be an American, I tear up. I hate fucking Lee Greenwood. But that song still, I feel like Mugatu, when Zoolander is brainwashed. Kill the
Malaysian Prime Minister.
When I hear those, if tomorrow all things I worked for in my life and I had to start again, dude, I'm back to that moment.
Yeah, I'm more Toby Keith than Lee Greenwood, but I feel you.
Fucking courtesy of the red, white, and blue. Is that what you are?
Yeah, absolutely. Put a boot in your ass. It's the American way. Big D, I respect that you respect the passion of these scientists, but it was a little too twister for me, if I'm being honest. Like, once again, we have another 90s movie where the scientists, they're all interesting weirdos. Like, you got to have the stuffy youngster with his loafers and his pipe, and then the blind guy, and then the stoner, and they got to call everything a nickname, right? You're pushing the vert, and they drive around in vintage convertibles. I don't know where it came from. And they got to listen to the stars on headphones because that's the only way a really passionate scientist would do it. You can't do it with these computers, these newfangled digital machines.
So you like more like Ian Malcolm, where they make scientists and mathematicians like rock stars? This is how they are, dude.
That is not how they are.
Okay, so how cast real scientists? What would they be doing?
All introverts.
So nobody would be talking to each other?
I volunteered in a African gray parrot laboratory at Arizona State, at the University of Arizona. And I got to tell you, bird people, they're all kind of like bird people. I imagine that astronomers are all kind of like astronomers.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't make good film.
No, it'd be terrible. It'd be like hackers if they took out all the graphics and shit and everybody just looked like actual hackers.
They're all sitting there awkward and just quiet. Miserable. Yeah. True.
A lot of Jolt Cola.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of trash on their desks and
so much masturbation.
Yeah.
Maybe that was just me. 4 years later, when Drumlin is about to terminate the SETI program, Arroway discovers a signal containing a sequence of prime numbers originating from the star Vega. After Drumlin and the National Security Council, headed by Michael Kitts, attempt to seize control of the facility, Arroway's team discovers a video hidden within the signal. Adolf Hitler's opening address at the 1936 Summer Olympics in Berlin, Germany. The Hitler transmission was the first to penetrate the Earth's ionosphere and reach Vega.
I think we're going to get into it later that the film, it's a bit bloated. We're over 2.5 hours, and it is a very intellectual concept. It's trying to do a lot and please a lot of people and convey Sagan's message in a way that a vast range of an audience could enjoy. But I'm going to start off. Here is my first little alarm bell that's going off, is how they timed the discovery. Ellie, they have funding down in Puerto Rico. That goes for a couple years. It runs out. Then on her very last chance to get funding, she gets it, right? Woo, save the day. We now fast forward 4 years. She's sitting out in the field. She's listening. And then once again, they have to do, they're going to pull our funding again. We only have 2 months. Our backs are really against the wall now. And she's sitting outside, and that's when she finally hears the signal, right? It doesn't feel organic. It feels like it was a forced convenience that they had to, like, let's drive up the energy. Let's make it feel really desperate. It was artificially urgent. It undercut the realism of the way science works and the hard establishment making these discoveries. Why don't they just have it more organic, right? They're down in Puerto Rico. They lose the funding. They get some funding. It didn't have to be the very last day.
Yep.
And then after 3 years, she's just sitting out there. She's frustrated. Fuck, am I really wasting my life? Should I have gone back to that teaching job? She's questioning her purpose. Then she hears it. It's not driven by the finances or the external forces of the government. It just felt so Hollywood.
I felt the same. It was all too convenient. It was all too Hollywood. But at least they tempered it with a plausible explanation. I got to give the movie some credit for that. The broadcast from 1936, it reaches Vega in 1961, right? So radio is a wave, just like light. And so it travels at the speed of light. And so it takes 26 years-ish to get to Vega.
Mm-hmm.
So assuming that the Vegas then get that message, amplify it, and then send it back, and it gets here during the Clinton presidency, like, that makes sense because they got something. They're like, what do we do with this? Do we reach back out to them? Okay, we got to prep a package, maybe put these schematics together, whatever, or like relay the signal. I think in Carl Sagan's original book, it was relayed through Vega, right? The aliens are even further out. The point is that according to Contact, the movie, this was allegedly the fastest they could respond. And at least they make that case, right? It would have been a lot weirder if they had responded earlier. Other point is, and there are some believers in this, right? The Haddon hoax, right? Which is that the industrialist Haddon actually is responsible. This is, in fact, a hoax. And we'll get into the details of that later. Point being is that he waited until exactly the opportune time to make her so desperate that she'd be a believer very quickly and not scrutinize it even more.
And that makes more sense. Honestly, I love your breaking down the time for the signal to go back and forth, but it's too convenient when she's at her most desperate. And Haddon would do that shit. Later on, I got to bring this up now because I know we won't talk about it. When Haddon lands the plane, right, and she comes on board, oh, no, he never lands for anybody. And she comes in, instead of just saying, hey, Ellie, I've cracked the code, he breaks out a full multimedia presentation of her life. Photos of her in school, video of her and dad, maps, childhood moments, the works. This shit looks like a 60 minutes profile of Ellie that he just did for her to walk in the plane.
I thought he was going to reveal that he was her father because she never met her mom, right? Her mom died from complications of childbirth. I'm like, what if Ted was just selected to raise her on behalf of Haddon? Basically a glorified science teacher, a live-in science teacher.
Fuck.
That made her, right, into what she was. I was thankful they didn't go that route. That would have been a little too weird. But you're right, Big D. He did a whole "this is your life" treatment on her,
and he was proving the fact he wasn't looking at like any paper. He knew it. He's like, born in this town, born in this year. You did this. Fuck, you impressed her enough, dude. Did you need the AV backup, the PowerPoint? It was a little bit heavy. So maybe this was a sales pitch, Gene. This had a little timeshare sales to it. Maybe Haddon in the end. If Sagan was alive today, maybe we could find out his true intention.
With the project gaining international attention, Arroway's team discovers the signal contains 63,000 pages of encoded data, and Haddon... So I'm not going to bring this up right now, but also just off record, like, why did they encrypt it?
Maybe it was a double. It was like
a double test.
It's a two-step authentication.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. Hey, we received it. Maybe they're a bunch of idiots. Let's encrypt it just in case. Or maybe it's to keep like the idiots among us from decoding it. If you gave the rednecks or some, like you said, the Hajis this technology, God knows what they would do with it.
Multiple nations provide funding for the construction of the machine, and Drumlin is chosen over Arroway as its passenger. During the first tests, a suicide bomber kills Drumlin and destroys the machine, but Haddon reveals to Arroway a second machine exists in Japan. Arroway, the only American remaining among the candidate pool, will use it.
So, Gene, one of my favorite things about this podcast is looking back at these films and seeing how do they hold up. And there's a moment early on where, Palmer Joss is on TV and he's like talking about how technology, the more we're connected, actually today we're more isolated and apart. I'm like, yeah, okay. That's very 2025. That's very relatable. But that's nothing compared to the main point of this film that made me think this is 2025. This is what we are capable of. And it is the scene outside the dishes. What do they call it? The FLA or the FVA?
The VLA, the Very Large Array.
And you get every form of humanity out there at once. And this could be today, Gene. You got some fat woman in a lawn chair sitting on her RV with a dish TV satellite and headphones. You got a group of neo-Nazis who now believe that the Hitler clip, it proves that they were correct.
Reasonable.
You got random religious nuts. You've got grifters who are selling alien abduction insurance. People somehow thinking it's America, like patriotic. They're waving flags. I guess there's a group now, a car club that has all of their Vegas out there.
Yeah.
Because, they came from the star Vega. It is a roadside carnival. Watching now, it feels like Burning Man, but this is the shit that would happen today. We talk about two-step authentication, the encryption. What the aliens should do is you send it unencoded, then you just watch how humanity responds. This would be the two-step authentication. They would look at this crowd and say, listen, this was a mistake. They're not ready. Let's wait 100 years and we'll hit them up. Because this is what people today would do.
Yeah, this does happen today. It took me right back to Storm Area 51, which now feels like forever ago. That was like 5-6 years ago. You remember that one?
Yes.
It was like more than 2 million people. They made a Facebook event, and then more than 2 million people marked themselves as going. Only like 150 people showed up, but people were Naruto running because they said like it could outrun bullets, and they were carrying protest signs that said things like "clap alien cheeks." Like, say what you will about the stupidity of this stuff. My favorite internet moments are these moments, the ones that manifest in real life. I think during the current protests, like people in inflatable frog suits, it's brilliant. It gives me faith in humanity.
Yeah, so Gene, people are fucking stupid. At least aliens, we can all enjoy, right? If somebody said we found a downed alien craft,
yeah,
I might go out and look. It's exciting, it's something to do. But I'm thinking more about November 2021 when that group from QAnon, they came up with a conspiracy that in Daley Plaza in Dallas, that they believed that John F. Kennedy Jr. would reappear. He died in a plane crash in 1999. Why would he reappear at the spot that his father was assassinated? That's the shit. That's crazy shit, Gene. That's not, hey, we're going to find an alien. Aliens are cool. JFK Jr. reappearing in Daley Plaza, that's crazy.
Although if it did happen, pretty cool.
Fuck, so are you going to go? Now you got me wondering.
No, I didn't say I was going to go. I just said it'd be pretty cool.
That would be pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, I'd be like, well, there's JFK Jr.
Here's a question for you. Would you rather find a downed aircraft with an alien or JFK Jr. coming back? Which one would shock you more?
What shock me more would be JFK Jr. coming back, but aliens I'd rather find.
Yeah, aliens were pretty cool. And I find myself asking, as because people are very religious and people get very passionate about their beliefs. We got the Crusades. We got people flying planes into buildings. We get a lot of crazy shit. Like female circumcision. Religion has a lot of crazy ideas. We see it in the film. The people are protesting because it threatens their belief structure. Ultimately, we get Busey's son looking wild and crazy. He blows up the whole gantry. First of all, if I'm going to be a covert terrorist, you don't pick that guy. That guy looks crazy, even if he cuts his hair, right? And I found myself thinking, yes, if religion today, right, the way people are, and people are very polarized, if you had incontrovertible proof, if you had like an alien come out and speak to the world, how would the major religions, we're not talking the fringe, how would they react to first contact? And I see three different options, right? They would either radicalize and think that this is the devil presenting himself as like a false prophet to threaten God, or they would somehow try to spin it and say, this is not real, it's a lie, or they would then twist it to say, this is God. God is now showing his true plan. God all along, he is the Father, he's the creator, but he created other life forms. What do you think of today? Aliens land. How do the major religions react? And not even saying their followers, but how do you think religion handles proof that we're not alone?
If I've learned anything from the past 5 years, it's that people will cling to their beliefs no matter what evidence they're shown. And people online have really poor media diets, and they're incredibly susceptible to propaganda. But outside of even the current conditions, religions in particular have this long track record of rationalizing how events match their worldview and even their prophecies. I'm not saying I'm outside of this, right? I was raised Baha'i, and when I was growing up, we had this belief in a thing called the lesser peace, right? And it was by the year 2000, very convenient, nice round number. By the year 2000, all the world's armies would disarm. That would be the lesser peace. So there would still be conflict like between people. That's the greater peace, right? But the lesser piece is just that we would demilitarize and there wouldn't be armed conflict around the world anymore. It's now 2025. That hasn't quite happened yet, but then you were told, oh, well, the calculation was incorrect, or it was 2,000 years according to this calendar, or what it meant was that, this particular type of conflict would end. There's always ways that they modify that message and make it kind of fit. But I think we have to go no further than the Bible. Bible is intended as this record of events, but everybody looks into it. And I get that there's revelations, et cetera, but like everyone looks into it and they can rationalize anything that's happening today based on something they read in the Bible. If you manipulate it enough, if you bend enough, of course you'll find those things.
And there's one of the moments where Palmer Joss is talking about how he's going to select the representation to go into the machine. And he drops a stat that said, whether or not a person believes in God's important, because 95% of the world's population believes in God. And I was like, okay, shit, maybe that's kind of high, but I was thinking 97, we were more religious. Without looking, what do you think the world's percentage? Do you know the number?
I don't.
Okay. What is today the rough worldwide number for believers in God?
Like a supreme being, or
Correct. Yes.
The specific like Judeo-Christian God?
No, that believe in a higher power, a God, the creator.
Like 60%?
According to the stats I've found, 80 to 85% of the worldwide secularism. It has grown, okay, in the U.S. and Europe, but population growth is outnumbered by the rest of the world, which is more religious. So yeah, I was shocked, 80 to 85%. And you think about the West, we think about our own experiences. We're such a small part of the world. You go outside, we're still vastly outnumbered. So I think people listening to this would find us to be quite sacrilegious for our thoughts.
It's so crazy because the proposition is that this thing exists, but there's literally no hard evidence.
It's about faith, Gene.
Yeah.
And that was such a stupid argument anyway. Prove to me you love your dad. There's a difference between proving a feeling or a fact.
I wanted so badly to jump into the movie at that point, because for everyone who hasn't seen the movie in a while, Matthew McConaughey asks Jodie Foster, did you love your father? And she says, of course. And he says, prove it. And that's in response to her not believing in a God. Here's how I would answer that. Okay, but I can prove that my dad existed. The love part, like, it's two different standards, right? I'm not saying prove to me you love God. I'm saying prove that God exists.
She should have flipped it and said, prove to me you love God. You can't do it. You're proving a feeling or not a fact.
Or throw him off the balcony. Be like, I guess God doesn't love you much. Unless then he survived, in which case he would say, see, God saved me.
Yeah. In a movie this long that gets the arguments repeated over and over again, that might have muddied the water.
I mean, it might have actually given the movie a little bit of a pulse right there where it dragged. So, the Matthew McConaughey thrown off a balcony scene. Yeah, breaking his beautiful little body. But big deal, alongside all the far-fetched sci-fi aspects of this movie, I found perhaps the most implausible development was how quickly the United States government and in an international consortium collaborated to fund a $300 billion construction project and get it built in 1 year. For reference, Manhattan Project, the atomic bomb, that took 3 years to develop. Granted, they didn't have the schematics and everything from the aliens, and that cost $2 billion in 1940s money, which is like $35 billion today to get that done. We're talking $300 billion in 1 year. Apollo mission to go to the moon, that cost $300 billion and it lasted 11 years. I just can't see governments working that quickly in 1997 to get something done, much less in 2025. Forget about it. We don't even have a functioning legislature. It's not happening. We don't have the international relationships. But in 97, even under the best circumstances, I mean, again, you talk about the implausibility. Like, it could have taken a couple of years. Why'd they have to make it 1 year? I don't know.
It's impossible. We can't build a bridge in a year.
Right.
Okay. How long do you think it took to build? Let's go. The Freedom Tower, the Twin Towers replacement.
15 years?
11 years.
11 years. Yeah.
11 years, and that's a building. And we were pretty motivated to fill that spot. You know, we really wanted to build a replacement. So yes, a year is a stretch for a technology that we don't fully understand. It's a complete revolution of even the manufacturing process, but we see more about the debates than we needed to see. So if we had gone on for 4 years, Gene, about committees being stuck in stalemate and a forced budget revoting and that would have been a bit much. But I'm torn. You know, we had to at least understand it. But a year, it's not realistic. How about it took her a year to find the signal and then 5 years to build?
Bill Clinton's building a $300 billion. No, not happening.
No,
he's busy being impeached. It's
the problem. It's the pacing is off because there's two great movies and they're trying to work together because the movie's not trying to come down on one side. It's not going to be pro-religion or pro-science. It's got and neither one of these two movies is really working together. On its own, the science story, yeah, it works. The faith story, it works. But when you overlap them, it just needs so much more. And a strong editor could have come in 2.5 hours. I think this could have been 2 hours. We get the same sorry about sacrilegious there. We get the same damn repeated debates, the political discord and the detours and the streamlining of timelines. And then we get the government coming in and taking control and funding. And then we get to see how it works, right? But you didn't need to rehash these things over and over again to the point where you're having the same debate. The conversation about faith, it happens repeatedly throughout. It loses some of the strength, and I felt the movie just meandering. It's an hour, Gene, when they first start to build the machine. Then the machine blows up. There's still 45 minutes left. This felt like we should have been coming down the home stretch to a finale and building steam. Instead, it builds steam and then it stalls. Builds steam and stalls. Never is there a point where I can feel us getting some excitement to a conclusion. I wanted things to be streamlined.
Once again, you're not wrong, Big D, but I think that's the intent of the film. Like, Contact exists to fuse the science story and the faith story. It's the movie's entire raison d'etre. Like, unfortunately, that makes for a bloated film that probably would have been better explored as a TV series. Like, you make this a TV series and individual episodes can explore those specific themes. I think Contact could have been a tighter, more engaging film. Like, you're not wrong there, but we should not downplay the fact that we had a thinky sci-fi blockbuster that raked in $170 million worldwide and explored some pretty squishy, fuzzy issues and featured a woman protagonist. Like, they must have gotten something right, even though they got some things wrong.
Yeah, but the repeated, Ellie's in, she's getting pushed out. Ellie makes a discovery. She comes back in. You get the whole Haddon side of it, where he's coming in and doing some big reveals. You could have streamlined that all. And then there's the selection of who's going to represent them. And it just drags on. And I want to ask, as we're getting now past the point where they're selecting and they're actually going to go, how did you feel about Palmer Joss's decision to ambush Ellie in that committee with the question of, do you believe in God? Was that a selfish decision or an out of line for somebody who had an emotional relationship with her?
It was a selfish decision, as he reveals later, but I wish he hadn't revealed that later, because it is a valid question. Like, you are not choosing the person who goes for the sake of that person or their passion for the project or the fact that they found the signal. And I'm saying this as a devout atheist. It is a valid question to ask the person if they believe in God, if they are representing humanity, the one shot we might have to talk to a different species. Like, as you said, Big D, if 95% of the people allegedly, or even 80% of the people in the world believe in a God, and again, we're not talking about a pilot here, we're talking about a representative of humanity, right? Maybe she's not the one you choose, or you just reveal that fact and the panel can be free to decide. But I think it's a valid question, especially coming from that person.
Right. And instead we waffle. Oh, I'm emotionally connected to you. I miss you. I love you. We have the conversation about faith in God. Then he drops the hammer and says, why aren't you religious? Then he meets her in the park and kisses her. Then he ambushes her with the question. He should have, from the first step, said, your lack of faith is going to be a problem. Make her defend it. Let her know it's coming. Make it that she's not prepared and she's ambushed. Make it that she can't answer the question. She can't defend her science. And then you shave 15 minutes of exposition.
Yeah. And to be fair, he asked Drumlin the same question. So it's not like he was just picking on her.
No. And also, couldn't she have more artfully dodged the question? I believe in a power. I can't explain the origin of the universe. She could have answered the question ambiguously. Gene Lyons, you have been selected to be host of a podcast that will influence the lives of tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands. Do you believe in God?
I want to tell you a story. When I was just a little boy, I used to sit at a radio and I would call out there into the darkness to hear what other voices were out there calling back to me. And I believed that someday, if I kept calling, I could reach my mother, who passed away.
Oh, fuck yes.
As I was being born. And then years later, when I was 9 years old, I lost my father. And again, I reached out there. And I call that faith. I call that reaching out to something bigger than myself.
Amen, Brother Lyons.
And I wish there was a God that could bring those people back into my life. And maybe someday I'll see them again. Someday far away.
Or you could say, I still hope. I have faith. I have faith that a power does exist that could once again reunite us.
I tell my mom all the time, I hope she's right.
Right.
I hope there is a heaven and an afterlife and we all get to be together again. I would love, Big D, to have an eternity hanging out with you. Do I believe it? No.
Stop right there. Stop. You're ahead of the game. Don't go any further.
Prove me wrong, God. Prove me wrong. It's a challenge.
Again, if that does happen, you don't want him to prove you wrong.
Oh, no. In our faith, there is no hell. So
take that, Christians.
Yeah. Equipped with multiple recording devices, Arroway enters a pod which is dropped into the machine and seemingly travels through wormholes. She observes a radio array-like structure at Vega, signs of civilization on an alien planet, and a celestial event that makes her ecstatic. Arroway finds herself on a beach similar to a childhood drawing she made of Pensacola, Florida. An alien approaches, taking on the appearance of her deceased father. He explains that the aliens detected humanity's radio emissions and judged them worthy of being shown a first step into the cosmos.
So this film is renowned for being divisive. I personally remember feeling a certain way when I left it, and it's the final stretch that becomes a little bit muddied. Whether or not So, Gene, I think this film is well known for its divisiveness about the ending and the reveal of the aliens. And it usually focuses on the very end, on the visuals, on the storytelling. For me, the machine, it looks cool. The special effects are great. It looks futuristic, but yet it looks believable. The wormhole sequence, it holds up. The way that the pod is becoming translucent, the static, the entire process, I thought looks really, really good. The face morphing into young Ellie, I'm not quite sure why that was happening, but it feels unnecessary, but great, go with it, right? Then we get to the rendering of the alien beach, and it pushed the movie too far. To me, it looks like a cheesy screensaver, or like those airbrush t-shirts you used to get at the fair that would show like the stars twinkling and palm trees and shit like that. It's ambitious, right? I understand you're trying to convey this message with some ambiguity and have the ending of the movie be powerful. But the effect, I think it undermines it. You should have had some more restraint. There should be questions about it. If you want people to leave the theater talking, don't show us this entire fucking reunion on the digital space beach and the blob and the whatever, the alien weird artificial dad coming out. Have the fall through the middle. She tells the story and we're left wondering, is she delusional? Did it happen? Was this some kind of technological malfunction? I think this is the perfect case of less is more, and it would have been a stronger ending.
I don't love where the story went at this point, but I think ILM knocked it out of the park. I loved the young Ellie Morph. I thought it looked great, especially considering this is 1997. More importantly, I was obsessed with the sound of this movie. And watching it at home, I regretted not seeing it in a theater. From the rumbling of the pod to the crunching grind of the signal from Vega as it's coming through the stereo, the big guns, or the roar of the wormhole, to just that silence and the soft crashing waves of the beach. This movie was incredible to watch. It was a delight to the ears. And I thought making the beach Ellie's version of Pensacola, it was a poetic touch. Not my favorite from a plot perspective, but I thought they did an excellent job of illustrating what we were supposed to see.
But again, it's fucking stupid. That wasn't like a pivotal moment in her life. That was one connection, one radio connection that was her furthest. It should have been her and the dad in the backyard looking up at the stars.
Yeah.
She should have walked out the back of the house, and there's dad with the telescope, and they're talking in front of the stars about life and the universe. That would fucking work, because the alien's explanation on why they appear as Ellie's dad, it's meant to feel comforting. We thought this form would work for the best for you. Does that make sense? It really doesn't. You're presenting as her father who died. It's the deepest traumatic feeling. If she came out there, she would think, am I in heaven? And maybe that's why they did it. It's the ambiguity of them is, oh, shit, I was wrong. The wormholes are God, and God has my dad up here. I'm in heaven. But it's unsettling. It's not reassuring. And the personal comments about you have your mother's hands. How the fuck do the aliens know that? That's creepy. It feels odd. It's like this weird intimate, almost like we get from Pluribus. Like they're somehow in her head, like pulling at her sentimental moments. And if you're trying to take humanity through this, they say it's slowly, right? Step by step. You're going to build like just little baby steps, right? This isn't a baby step. You had humanity build this giant earth-shaking machine, and then you send her home with no proof, an ambiguous description of what happened. I don't think this is the way that if you've thought about this and done it for billions of years, I bet I could ask you, Gene, right now, come up with 5 steps that you would do if you're the aliens after initial contact's made that would make more sense than her meeting her dad on some fucking beach they talked about once.
You're absolutely right on that. I mean, the fact is they've established a method of communication. Like, so yes, it takes a long time for that communication to go there, but you send a stream of data. Here's packet 1, here's whatever. And I get what they're saying there is that takes too long, right? We can move a person faster than we can move radio waves. But if you can move a person that fast, what else can you do that fast? Aliens? Can you show us something else that would be very useful to us? Maybe, I don't know, infinite energy so we don't destroy our planet, or I don't know, some sort of an infinite food source, or maybe a way to know what would happen on other planets if we continue along our way. But instead, no, they went with this treatment. And I put myself in Ellie's shoes, and it's like, hey, Gene, welcome to space. It's me, your dead dad. I took the liberty of knocking you out and then scanning your brain. And now I'm going to talk about your dead mom's hands, and I'm going to kiss you. And kiss her. Isn't the CGI beach amazing? Like, I don't get what is going on here. Where is Ellie's responsibility here as a scientist? Right? The aliens are fucking up on their end. They're not giving her anything useful other than, hey, we're here. We already knew that, aliens. We already fucking knew that. They're not like, hey, here's something you can take back to prove this. Why isn't Ellie saying, I came with this list of 5 questions I have memorized so that I can take something useful back to Earth as a representative?
I'm going to flip it. This is humanity's fuck up. This is the selection process is wrong.
Yeah.
This experience is based upon Ellie. Each one of the chosen representatives of a planet is going to be handled differently. If you send Drummond, it's probably a representative in a suit and tie being like, hello, greetings, Earth. Here is technology. Here is proof that we're not going to threaten the United States. Here is proof that we are friendly. But because Ellie is so fucked up in the head, which she is, she's mentally damaged. We see her isolated from relationships because of the loss of her father and the way she's buried herself into silence and isolation of her headphones. Maybe you should have picked a better, representative, and then they would have gotten the straightforward presentation. They would have get the PowerPoint, the Haddon PowerPoint.
What they should have done is sent Haddon, because he was terminally ill already. If it doesn't work out, oh well.
But then they would have believed the aliens killed him as he fell in the pod. If you'd put Stephen Hawking in there, right? Stephen Hawking, and he fell through and he died, we would have thought the aliens killed him. It's a go. Good to go. What did she say? Okay, go.
Okay to go.
Okay to go in the Hawkins voice.
Arroway regains consciousness in the pod and is told the pod fell through the machine into a safety net and that the experiment achieved nothing. A congressional committee headed by Kitts speculates that the signal and the machine were a hoax designed by Haddon, who has since died. Arroway reunites with Joss, who says he believes her, while Kitts and White House official Rachel Constantine observed that Arroway's device recorded 18 hours of static.
So the discussion of faith and proof, we have to have it for a 4th time. We haven't done it enough. We've now experienced the trip to space, or at least the trip she believes that she's had, and we get a congressional hearing. And the only reason this exists is for one more time. We're going to underline it. This one thematic idea, Ellie now has to rely on her faith in science, absence of proof, just like religious believers have to do the same to that challenge. And that parallel, it's smart, it's effective, but I could see it coming, right? When it lands, we all see it and they drag it out. The scene just keeps going. We get the idea that she now is making the same argument that people who believe in God do. And it's okay. But the inquiry feels like it's just filler. It's one last hand holding for the people who might not have gotten it. I would have hoped by this point you didn't need to say it again. And it's dragged out. It's like, well, how can you prove you went on it? And then there's like dramatic pause. Because I believe. Fuck, come on, man. It's 2.5 hours.
There are so many problems with this ending. First, Arroway is basically being told that she's nuts or the victim of a hoax. And we've seen how driven she is. We've seen how she will not give up. We've seen how she takes matters into her own hands, right? You're telling me that she's never asked for the recordings? She's never noticed that there's 18 hours of static that might suggest that she's telling the truth? She and her team aren't poring over that static for any other hidden data? I mean, we saw them dissect and decode an alien message, noticing the prime numbers, then noticing that there was a TV signal to it, then noticing that there was a 3-dimensional aspect to it. What about the machine itself? That they built the machine successfully. It's clearly doing something. There are ships nearly capsizing in its presence. Is that not some kind of evidence that something happened there? And yes, Haddon is dead, but his company still exists. Don't you think they would be deeply invested in furthering the science and figuring it out? It's like the government is now the only entity out there.
So Kent wasn't sitting there, with his daredevil abilities and dissecting the multi-layers of the audio. He would have gotten the audio right away. And also, I thought I missed in the plot. Did they only use the machine once? Why wouldn't you fire it up again?
Hold on. Not to rewind too much, but also, why didn't they test the second machine? There's like, fuck it. It's Ellie.
I got a better idea. Put 2 people in it.
No, that'd be like The Fly. They just end up as one
You
person.
put a fucking chair in it, You made her wear all this equipment that wasn't in the original design. I think you would have gone, hey, next one, look at Stargate. You put the military officer through. Next one should have been someone from the military. Then you put a man of faith. Try to maybe did the alien say you can't come back? They said baby steps.
She asked. They never said explicitly no. But they don't just hang out on the beach all day, dude. They got shit to do.
But that's also a dick move. You make the Earth pour like $3 trillion into this for one use.
Yeah.
It's like the Olympic Games.
It's not a zero-sum game, though. It's not a zero-sum game, though, because that $3 trillion went to the workers who provided the materials for it, the technicians who worked on it, the engineers. There's probably a lot of media value to that, right? TV ratings. There's probably going to be a documentary made about it. Listen, you spend on big government projects like the interstate system, and that money goes in the hands of hardworking Americans who need it.
So Sagan obviously wrote this. I wonder if we could create a follow-up, a sequel, where the Japanese and the US government now take the technology and weaponize it. So the question is how scientific interaction with the alien species ultimately ended up short-circuiting our future and development and growth. Because that fucking technology, you're right. There was some glowing, this was like some cold fusion, magnetic. There was some power that the US government would certainly try to weaponize.
This is going to sound very middle-aged man of me, Big D, but when I was watching this movie, I thought we were really blessed in the late 90s with some talented and very good-looking movie stars. You see McConaughey, you see Foster, they're paired up on the screen. It put a smile on my face. I was like, now that was cinema. That's when we had it good. They can handle the drama, the melodrama in some parts. They can handle the romance. They can handle the action. They can handle the tender moments. Like, these are professionals, right? And I started thinking, you know, like today's stars, they don't have that pizzazz. They don't have that passion. But then I did the hard work, Big D, as Jodie Foster does in this movie, of questioning my own position. And I surprised myself. I thought, okay, no, we do have these people. Like Matthew McConaughey, that's Glenn Powell now. And he's not bad. Everyone likes a Glenn Powell. And Jodie Foster, that's Emily Blunt. You know, a little thinky, but still attractive. Like, tell me you don't watch that movie. They remake this movie. Glenn Powell, Emily Blunt, tighten it up a little bit. You going? You in?
I don't know. I mean, Glenn Powell, but I'm all in. I thought when his Running Man would be the thing that launches him. That failed. He seems a bit goofy. They seem like pale carbon copies of the stars that you've described. You can't compare Emily Blunt's career to Jodie Foster. Multiple Academy Awards.
Not yet.
I don't know.
You got to remember this. So this pre-McConaissance, right? And for Jodie Foster, like, she was about where Emily Blunt is now.
But she'd already had The Accused under her belt. She'd already done Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, that's true.
She had a lot of diverse roles, whereas Emily Blunt, other than I think The Edge of Tomorrow, I think she's generally plays the same type of character.
Ooh, what about like a Natalie Portman?
And again, Natalie Portman did that weird multi-dimensional adaptation of the novel. I can't remember what the name of it was. I think Natalie Portman could do it. That's a good choice. Or Rachel, what's her name from Arrival? Yeah, so Gene, you think about Arrival and you had Rachel McAdams. She was fucking dynamite. That's the replacement for Jodie Foster. I could see that.
Okay.
The Linguist, yeah. That, and even though I don't like
The Irish,
no, I don't like the snowplow guy. You know, Hawkeye. you know who I'm talking about, right?
The snowplow guy. Oh, Hawkeye from the Avengers?
Yes, because he was
Jeremy
Renner. Yeah.
Renner.
So I'm not a huge Jeremy Renner fan. You know.
Wow.
But again, you had that cast, I think.
Okay.
You could redo it. So yeah, maybe we're just jaded because we always believe that the stars of our time. Yeah. But there is the equivalent now. You know, in a few years, people won't remember McConaughey or Jodie Foster, and they'll be the stars of days gone by.
Well, now's the time in the podcast we give our Shat score for Contact. Our Shat score is our way of telling you how many wipes this movie takes to get off your respective butts. 0 wipes is a perfect movie. It's nebulae, quasars, pulsars, stuff like that. and Five Wipes is an absolute disaster of a film. It's overcooked ham. I'll go first, Big D. When people think cinematic nostalgia, it's often tied to specific props, right? We think about the DeLorean or Kevin McAllister's house, which I think just sold for like several $1 million, or Elliot's bicycle with E.T. in the basket. But if you step back, there's this broader level of nostalgia that encompasses the feeling a movie gives you and the type of movie that was being made at the time. And Contact is a terrific example of these late 90s movies that were so optimistic and thinky and emotionally available. But those movies had a weakness as well, which is that they were sort of preachy. They were generally kind of bloated, and they always warped the plot to shoehorn a worldview, making it to the point where it wasn't plausible, right? I definitely felt some feels while watching this movie and Talk to My Baby. I enjoyed myself really until the pod dropped, and then it kind of went off the rails. I have enjoyed the pod drop scene. I thought it built up a lot of suspense. Like, it was engaging. It was exciting. But then the movie kind of fell off. They did not stick the landing. It's a good movie, not a great movie. I got to go 2 wipes.
I think I'm going to get a little bit worse than you. I think I'm going to land at 3 wipes. And this was a movie I remember loving as a kid, even though I walked out of the theater. I got to be honest, I was disappointed at the time. I wanted something more profound.
Boobs.
So, Gene, I think you're being a bit generous. I loved this film, even though the ending, when I saw it in the theaters, I left disappointed. I admire what the movie's trying to do, and a lot of it still works. It looks great. The ideas are big. They're thoughtful. It's emotionally sincere, and it's trying to do a lot. It clearly respects the audience, even though at some points that makes it even more clear that they're trying to handhold us in case nobody gets left behind. But it drags, man. It's 2.5 hours. And the ending, it's just too cheesy for me. Try to come up with something more profound or ambiguity. Because when I left the theater, nobody was having a conversation of faith versus science. It was about, what the fuck was the deal with the fucking beach scene? Why were they doing that? Instead of having it be about how do you justify your belief in something? None of that came out. It was just people being like, why the fuck did they choose to do that? I would have rather them almost give nothing. And I think Arrival does First Contact way better. 3 wipes. I feel bad for it, but I think 3 wipes is fair.
Big D, new year, new me. For the first time, I think I'm persuaded by your argument. It's a very good point. If Contact's purpose was to pit faith versus science and to make us have that conversation and to make us really think about that for even a minute, right? It failed miserably.
Yes.
Because we were so distracted by everything else that it's like, no, it never occurred to me outside of the movie to actually think about that topic.
And I think by showing us that whole travel into space, right, it puts its finger on the scale.
Yeah.
Have her fall through. She comes out with the story. Then we're talking, did it really happen? Wow, come on, make this my year. This will be a great new year, if I could sway you.
All right, I'm coming down to 3 wipes. I'm right there alongside
yes.
you.
I think this is the first time this happened.
Not a good movie. It's the first time I've ever changed my score. Yeah.
Wow. I'm telling you, 2026 is going to be my year, folks. This is going to be great because with a score of 3 wipes, that now puts us in the 272 spot with some other films that are less profound. Uncle Buck, Police Academy, Smokey and the Bandit, Mortal Kombat, Grease 2, Over the Top, and Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert.
Wow.
And here is one final nail in the coffin for me, Gene. When the movie ended, I thought to myself, and maybe I was, again, thinking about my own mortality, I said, this is the last time in my life I watch Contact. And I'm not being like funny. I honestly knew I would never sit down and watch that film again.
Unless you appear to Emma in a space vision watching Contact, because that's her fondest memory of you.
Fuck.
On a beach in Pensacola.
Yes, on a beach in Pensacola.
Also, having been to Pensacola, yeah, I'd rather go to Jodie Foster's Pensacola.
No, fucking backyard, Gene. Dad's sitting at the telescope.
Yeah.
And he gives you a Carl Sagan speech about our place in the galaxy.
Young Ellie coming down the stairs, dad is face down with the popcorn, just sits up. Huh? Hey.
That's the aliens moment.
Hey, Ellie, it's me. I bet you thought I was dead. but I just fell down and got a hemorrhage in my head.
We thought you would feel comfortable. Ellie, give us a hug. You have mommy's hands. Hug us, Ellie. Hug us.
All right, Big D, what do we have coming up next week?
Oh, man, Gene. Next week, after building an empire with bootleg alcohol, legendary crime boss Al Capone rules Chicago with an iron fist. Through Prohibition, Agent Elliot Ness attempts to take Capone down. Even his best efforts fail due to the widespread corruption within the Windy City's police force. Recruiting an elite group of lawmen who won't be swayed by bribes or fear, including Irish-American cop Jimmy Malone. Ness renews his determination to capture Capone and bring him to justice. Commissioned by Adrian N. And holy shit, 87. This is, we say it a lot of times, this is an iconic 80s film, iconic director, Oscar award-winning score. This is a good one. And I'm so worried, Gene. When we go back and look at some of these period pieces, is this going to hold up?
I thought this movie was so fucking cool when I was a kid.
I'm worried about like the slow motion carriage going down the stairs. Chink, 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 chink. And the slow motion shootout. I'm just worried about.
Yeah.
Man, fingers crossed.
It's another 2-hour movie, so buckle up.
I think this would anger people because a lot of people are very fond of this film.
Well, Adrian certainly is. Adrian, thank you for the upcoming commission. Steve-O, thank you for commissioning Contact. Thank you to all the commissioners who make this podcast possible. That concludes this week's episode of Shat The Movies. Be sure to follow us on social media and share with a friend. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram at Shat The Movies. You can email us, host@shatpod.com. Support the podcast by shopping our Amazon affiliate link, buying our merch, or by commissioning your own movie. Find all information by visiting our website, shatpod.com. Also, check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV. Review TV series such as Lovecraft Country, Westworld, True Detective, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, and Watchmen. Find all information on our website, shatpod.com/TV, wherever our fine podcasts be found, including Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe. And if you stop by Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star review. It helps the podcast grow. On behalf of my co-host, Big D, I'm Gene Lyons. Join us next time for the following movie.
Al Capone, the king of the underworld.
Somebody messes with me, I'm gonna mess with him.
Elliot Ness, the leader of the Untouchables.
I have sworn to put this man away.
4 honest men took on an army of crime and swore to bring Capone to his knees.
You wait till the fight's over, one guy's left standing, and that's how you know who won.
The Untouchables, rated R.
Starts Wednesday, June 3rd at a theater near you.
I was really hoping that the pod was going to get slingshotted out of there. Like I had that vision in my head. Like I falsely remembered that it goes into the thing and then just gets whew, just like thrown out of the ball.
And gets shot.
Zooming across. And, yeah, like a cannon. I mean, that's not how cannons work, but you get what I'm saying. Anyway.